Hey, family. This morning I want to speak around the topic of I'm not perfect, I'm just human, and I'm not Jesus. Now, many a times I've used that with my wife, and vice versa. We spoke to each other on this about well, you're not Jesus. Well, I'm not Jesus, and I would say all the time. Now, of course, we're never gonna be perfect. I think that this morning the Spirit has led me to shift that perspective and to start really praising a God that makes things that seem impossible possible. Our text for this morning, one of our texts for this morning, is Ephesians 5:1, and it says, "Imitate God," to copy speech or mannerisms. That is what imitate means. Imitate, copy God, therefore, in everything, not just some things, copy God in everything you do because you are His dear children. Now let's jump over to John 14:12. I tell you the truth, and this is Jesus speaking. I tell you the truth. Anyone who believes in me will do the same, not just some of the same works as I've done. Perfect works, mind you, keep that in mind. As I've done, and even greater works, these shall he do, because I go on to my Father. He's telling us, so first the Apostle Paul is telling us that in everything I do, I am to copy and mimic God, to imitate God in everything that I do. In my speech, in my mannerisms. If I'm cursing at my wife, I'm not practicing or imitating or copying the things that God would say. If I'm out here fighting and living a life in the street still, I'm not walking the walk that God would walk, the perfect walk that God would walk. And I can feel like I'll never be perfect. But I feel like the goal is to aim towards perfection. Because then when you jump over to John, Jesus is literally telling us, you can do the same thing as me, and you're going to do greater things. But how do I do that? How do I copy somebody? Well, in order for me to mimic you, in order for me to imitate you, in order for me to copy you, I have to follow you. I have to see you. So I first need to see you. And how do I see you? How do I hear you? In this word. I need to stay in this word. I think it's important for us to shift our perspectives because we live in a time of oh, you're not perfect. It's all right. You'll never be perfect. But the word is the truth, and the word is literally telling me that I can be. It's going to be tough, but I can be. I have the opportunity to be. But I'm also given my free will. Think about this. Any sin that I do, any sin that I am involved in, is an act of my free will. So if I truly repent and turn my back on it, turn my back on sin and say, I'm done with it. I'm done with it. One thing after another. Do a work in me. Do a work in me, God. And if there's areas in my life where I feel like I don't want to change, then I need to ask God to help me change those things. Because it's okay to come to God and be like, I don't want to change this and I don't know why. Help me to be more like your son. Because Jesus tells us we can be. So my hope for today is that we would shift our perspectives and stop trying to be such a lukewarm family in faith, and let us start to strive for perfection, and in hopes and in prayers that one day we can truly reach it, and that we can live out the promises that Jesus has given us for the things that we can do in our lives. Today we should be a people that are setting an example of this is what perfect can look like if I keep working towards it every day and walking in faith. I love y'all. God bless.